Hello everyone and welcome into today's extremely colorful, absolutely an explosion of color video. So I went out to Hartville Flea Market again, and before I start this, I want to say thank you again to all the new subscribers. You have been so courageous to join in on this journey with me, and I'm just incredibly grateful. And I was raised to tell people when I was thankful, so thank you. You want to stay tuned in this video because a ton of Bakelite jewelry that I acquired, and inside this box, you don't want to move because a lot of my local viewers that have known me for a long time have said, why don't you bring on the decorative arts that you constantly buy? Why don't you bring on the collectible glassware and some of the decorative arts that you buy? This is completely loaded with mid-century modern Viking, L.E. Smith, Fenton, and Blanco glass. So if you're into vintage glassware, you're in the right space today. And this whole container, this was in a storage situation, and the gentleman said to me, I'm sorry it's so dirty. And look, I actually cleaned the crate because look how filthy it was, and that was a white cloth before I started. And I've often said to people, if you're gonna go into resale and you're gonna be a quote antique dealer, you gotta get your hands dirty or you're gonna go out of business. So, and everyone questions why my manicure is always so messed up, because I use my hands as tools in my trade to go out and to buy these things. I'm not worried about a glitzy manicure. I'm not worried about my fingernails all the time. What I am worried about is going out to the flea market and finding amazing treasures that I can make a lot of money on. I will be transparent and I will tell you, I paid $150 for this full container of vintage glass. I had pulled out 3 pieces and the gentleman had told me for the 3 he wanted $90, and he sold me the whole container of, I think there's 22 or 23 pieces, and he sold them to me for a moderate $150 for all. He bagged them up, he put them in bubble wrap, and he put them inside of this tote, and I couldn't be more happy with this purchase. We'll get into this in just a second, but let's do the Bakelite jewelry first, just because so many of my viewers love to see what I pull in from Bakelite. So I got a cherry brooch, I got a beautiful 2-tone orange and yellow bangle. I did get a couple things that weren't Bakelite. There's a garnet cross. There is a beautiful heart-shaped ring box that is fantastic. And then this little button right here, let me take this out. If you're into glass, please familiarize yourself with Leo Popper. And I've talked about Leo Popper now for over a year. Why Leo Popper is important. This is a Leo Popper button. To most people, this would be a $3, a $4, or a $5 clothing button. This, in fact, because of the size and that purple silvered foil kind of inset there, that button is now between $65 and $75. Note that little key shank, that little key-shaped shank that looks like the edge of a key. That is a strong indicator of Leo Popper glass. Very collectible. You will find it in jewelry, hat pins, sash pins, buckles. You'll find Leo Popper glass in buttons as well. So please be on the lookout for that, because I think that was like $5, or I don't remember what I paid exactly. I didn't care because I didn't even ask the lady. I said, just put it in my total. This is blue rhinestone, and it is Weiss. It's signed down in there. It is Weiss. It is correct. It's from the late 1950s, early 1960s. That was $20. And that was an absolute yes for 20. This was very interesting, and I guess I'm taking a little bit of a side road here like usual. This is sterling silver from the 1940s, very reminiscent of Marcel Boucher, Regia, Trifari, but it's sterling silver, and look at these beautiful purple glass stones. Clear rhinestones in that floral spray with that large kind of basket design. A very strong indicator of late 1930s into the 1940s. More 1940s on that version. Very retro, very large, very substantial. Anything like that in rhinestone that is what do you say, better than the rest. That's why I go after it. And so I will, of course, do rhinestone because that's where I started my life with this collecting. This was $25. This is Swarovski. She correctly identified it. I loved that design of the two kind of strawberries and crystal. The design got me. I didn't buy by name. I didn't buy by designer. I bought by the end result on this one, and I loved that really beautiful briolette-shaped crystal and the small one. I think if it only had the large berry, I probably wouldn't have been as excited, and I liked the 3-leaf, an odd number in design. Then with the 2 berries, that's a total of 5 elements. Always makes sense to have an odd number of elements in a successful piece of jewelry, according to me. And then this is all Bakelite down in here. Let me take these out and kind of show you the Bakelite. And then, and then some sterling rings I forgot I bought. I did get carried away. Some days I don't find much at the Flea, and then some days I found an absolute ton. Really loved this one. Maybe I will leave that on for the video. Why not, right? Red coral turquoise. And I've often told people I enjoy my pieces first and then I sell them. Or sometimes they're immediate sell. I did sell 2 pieces of the glass before I left the flea market. I forgot to mention that. A lady had said to me, "Do you mind if I look through that?" And I said, "No, that would be fine." And I think she was doing something for her daughter's wedding. And I said, "Yes, this is a fire agate. That one is likely Mexican. And sterling silver, very robust Native American mounting. Really loved the sensitivity to that scalloped bezel. And I did like the fire inside the stone. Usually I like to see more blue and purple, but boy, it sure is a wonderful fire agate. Should see it in better lighting. And then these were Zuni Native American earrings. And I've been selling out of clip-ons every time I go to sell now at the shows. Clip-ons are back. You know, they weren't around, they weren't sought after for 15, 20 years. And now all of a sudden they're back. And people are loving them. And those are beautiful turquoise. And I liked the sensitivity to design, and I liked how compact they were, but still large scale. So that was a definite yes. And again, I just want to say thanks for joining in. I just am so incredibly grateful. Let me put all these treasures back in their bags real quick. And I guess I should unbag these and come right back. Let me do that. I'll be right back. Give me one sec. I forgot I have a pause button for a reason. I don't know why I go so crazy in these videos. I really don't. I get so amped up because I've been so passionate about this business for so long, and it's an amazing thing that after doing something, a career for 30 years, and still being in love with it after 30 years, doesn't that say I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing? I've seen so many people come and go in the business because they weren't passionate about it. They were just kind of, I think I'm going to open an antique store and it's a novel idea. And like I said before, they didn't want to get their hands dirty. And within a few short years, they were out of business. And I am just very blessed that I've been able to do this for well over half my life now. And at 51, it feels amazing to be able to have done this. So thank you all for joining in on the journey. I do need to get all the price tags off of these. I usually do that before the videos because that's very distracting to me for some reason. But this is marbleized green Bakelite. Absolutely loved it. In wonderful condition, and I love the oxidation. Again, doesn't that look like spinach in a way? It just is this lush grass green and yellow. Love that one. These two, this one was specifically very unusual. This is the 6 dot, and it's the undulating dot. So there's 6 dots that go around the outside, and they are inlaid. So you will feel a little seam right here. You'll feel a tiny little seam. You shouldn't feel too much, but you will feel a tiny little separation between the dot and the base cream corn. So that is sun-kissed orange and cream corn 6 dot undulating. And look at the thickness of these two. Loved them both for separate reasons. Years and years and years ago, this bangle was selling for around $650. This one is selling for around $350 when you could find them. Now this one's probably down to around $250 to $300, and this one is probably like $175 to $185. So the price has come down in vintage Bakelite, but these are both from the late 1950s. They started them earlier, but not in this exact design. But look at the thickness of that, and you can see that that's genuine Bakelite. You can feel the heft of them. You can hear that clank, that sound. It's very kind of, almost sounds wooden. That's the way I have always said. And I've seen so many reproductions over the last 20 years. And please be careful with vintage Bakelite. Please be very, very careful. And then this trio, I wanted to sell these together for the tropical leaves and the tropical flower, but I wanted to sell that stack as a trio, and I liked that you could redo them. So you either have the graduating color of dark, medium, and then light, or you could do it by width and have the thin one in the center, or you could be courageous and put the wide one in the center. But look how cool that changes the story of design. I almost like that the best. But that's what's fun about Bakelite, is you can then pair things differently. You can move bangles around, but the trio, I think this was $150. I think it was $150 for the trio. So there was for sure money left in those, because those are all original, really beautiful, and absolutely fantastic. If you need to know how to test Bakelite, I've done that in other videos. You could go over to my Bakelite video and I cover that. Got to get this string off, but I love lipstick red that's marbleized. I've always loved it. Love the width of that. And then this one, tropical leaf carved. I've had this bracelet in about 4 different colors over the years. It always sells incredibly well because it's an easy stacker as well. 1 inch wide, that kind of moody, beautiful orange with a deep patination. I would say on that one, you know, today, 150 to 165. Years ago, it was like 225 to 250 because of how deeply carved it was. In excellent condition. Notice the outside is deeper colored than the inside. That does happen in natural Bakelite. Please be careful in carved bangles. I am seeing a ton of the market being flooded with a ton of reproductions that are not vintage, that are not Bakelite, that are not authentic, and they're asking exorbitant prices for them. So please be careful, because the new and fake plastic is not Bakelite, and it's not worth the prices of an original. I will be doing a follow-up video on that, and boy, do I love that ring. And this is my other ring of choice. It's a Christina Malcolm, a wearable sculpture that is cast and amazing. So let's put all these away. I'm going to pause and I'm going to start to unwrap some of this glass. I'll be right back. For full transparency, I think I'm just going to unwrap it with you. So let me start to, oh, Blanco, Amberina, Look at the bottom of Blanco, needs to be cleaned on the inside. There's the original Blanco handcrafted foil label, absolutely original stopper, not broken at the top. Already a major score for a Blanco Amberina bottle, and it's an unusual size. Don't normally find it that way. Oh, Viking Party Light in Crackle. Crackle glass Viking. Absolutely beautiful. Look at that sun-kissed orange color and the crazing. That's a Viking Party Light, I believe it's called. At least it's a little candle holder for a votive. And look at the crackle. This came in so many different colors: ruby red, blue neek, avocado, an amber color. They all have specific names, and I've always been very attracted to the orange versions. This one might be Fenton. By the foot of this sure looks to be Fenton. Some people would instantaneously say, that's a Viking swung vase. That's Viking. I don't think so. Not this crystalline, faceted pattern. I don't think so. It does need to be cleaned. There's a dead bug on the inside. But like I said, and this is swung. See how the top is formed? Like this was swung back and forth on to like have this glass be gravity pull this lip like that. Don't know how else to describe it. I've seen it done in real life. This is probably Fenton as well. Amberina goes from that golden yellow into that ruby red. Really nice for a creamer. Sometimes these things are also Westmoreland. Sometimes I have had Boyd glass that was the same color. This is likely Fenton as well. Some of these are signed and some are not. That sure does look Fenton. And of course, I'm going to blank out on that pattern. I think it's Button and Daisy. Is that right? Can you guys put in the chat if you think that's Button and Daisy pattern? So, but I know Ellie Smith, Moon and Stars, because I've had that so many times. And this one is Viking as well. Oh wait, yeah, this one's definitely Viking in construction. The top annealed again and swung. That foot is definitely Viking, and you can tell. And sometimes it's difficult, but that's definitely produced by Viking. The way the pedals are kind of pushed up. Ellie Smith was doing some things that were just as fantastic, to say the least. I don't know why I go so crazy in these videos, but please stay tuned because there is one vase in the bottom that I think is going to be a keeper for me. Oh, here's the sugar for the creamer and sugar. Here's the mate to it. And look, there's the mate in really perfect condition. Absolutely love those. Very, very beautiful. And, you know, can I retire on this box? No. Was I excited because I can make a whole bunch of profit? The answer is yes, with just a little bit of work. Ground down Pontal on that one. Not sure the manufacturer on that. Has a little bit more age than the rest. And again, that amberina going from that yellow into that kind of orange, if you will. Sometimes amberina does kind of... It's slightly a different color, but by the different makers. And this one, yeah, I'm going to have to go with, sure seems Blanco. The weight of the glass, the way it's constructed, sure feels Blanco to me. Really beautiful. I love this. And then, of course, you have rainbow glass. The Rainbow Company was fantastic. And produced a lot of things like this as well. I think this has a stopper. So let me set this one over here. And thank you so much for joining in. But would you guys, in the comment section, would you have bought this collection of glass so far for $150? And you can wait until the end of the video to answer that. Look at that for a pinched style vase. Very simple, very beautiful. Love the color of this glass. And I've always been kind of very aware of the way things are, the finish of pieces, the way things are finished. Boy, oh boy, does this, this is awesome. And I don't know who did this one. I'm not sure, so I'm not going to say. Oh, I think this probably would be Fenton, is my guess. That sure looks like Fenton feet, but it also looks like the three-toed Ellie Smith swung vases. But that sure doesn't look like an Ellie Smith pattern, but look at that for a votive candle holder in really good condition. Think about the heat of the candle in such a thing. It's going to fracture this glass. It's going to completely give an internal fracture, so I don't think that was ever used, but that is all original. And a wonderful little candle votive. That's fantastic. Can I retire on that one? No. Could I sell it for like $35? Probably, on a really good day. This one is Viking, and you can tell by the pattern of the leaves that this is Viking. And again, look at the feet of these, so you'll know the difference when you see it, sometimes, in real life. And there is a cross-section and overlay, because a lot of these companies were bought out by other companies over time. There's the Viking label. And in the Viking book, because I've read the book cover to cover, so I knew what I was talking about, they had actually had fake, not fake labels, but they had extra labels left over, and people would put them on items that weren't even Viking. So be careful with a label. So just be very, very careful with a Viking label. And I've always bought these by form, by color, and by surface. And that is a beautiful swung vase with the 4-leaf pattern on the bottom. Again, that probably has a specific name. I'm sure it does. And I didn't care because that is not going to stay around long. That size of a swung vase with a Viking label. Now those are up to, oh, and look at the color variance. So the one that I said was Fenton earlier. Do you see that slight color variance there? So this is Fenton, this is Viking, side by side. Comparison, contrast, very similar tops. But look at the color variance and also the seam on the Fenton. See the seam there on the Fenton? And you don't really notice that on the Viking as much. So that's another way to kind of tell. And there's other experts in glass that'll say, well, this and that, or this is oily and this isn't, and blah, 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 and they go crazy. I'm not going to do it. This one would sell for, let's say this one would sell for around 55 to 65, and it will sell. Other people put 85 on it and wonder why it doesn't sell, because it's not worth it. This one would sell for around 85 to 95. Maybe some people say 125, and I go, you're holding out for potential money. You know, you're holding out for the great pumpkin. I don't do that in my business. I never have. When it's commercially produced, and I'm not picking on commercially produced items, but when it's not artistry or art or one of a kind, you got to remember there's a ton of these in the world. This is Ellie Smith, I believe. I think this form is Ellie Smith. The color is Ellie Smith. This does not read as Viking to me because the pronounced seams again. This is, again, me touching glass for over 20 years. And you have to understand, I was doing the Viking swung vases, the Ellie Smith bittersweet vases for the last 15 years of my life. I didn't follow the fads. You know, it's a fad now, the swung vases and this and that. It's all fads. It comes and goes. I don't do fads. That's why I'm still in business 30 years later. Really beautiful candy jar in, again, that sun-kissed orange. Love the gradation of the yellow. That is just wonderful. Maybe 35, 45. On a good day, 45. And I just say, hey, because I paid $150 for the total, I don't want to hold out for potential because it doesn't make sense. What's another $10 or $20? I'd rather have a sale than someone walk away and then know that they can get it somewhere else. I believe this also was Viking because you can see the remnant of the foil label here, and that probably, yeah, that was definitely a Viking label for sure. Foil front, and you can see by that foot. You can still see a little bit of the seams, but they're not as nearly as pronounced as the Fenton versions. At least to me, as an artist, I look at construction more than a label, shall you say. But look at the top of that. For an amazing, amazing vessel, and I love that kind of flame-like point that gets. A very sizable version. The weight of Viking is very heavy as well. Viking is extremely heavy when it comes to their construction. I'll leave that one right there. Let's do this one because I know that this also has a stopper. To me, this is Blanco. Again, look at the color, the little color variance. I don't think that's a chip. No, that's just dirt. That's just dirt from storage. Look at the way this bends the light and that form, that almost genie bottle swell of a tight lip top, that tight neck at the top, and the gradation of deep ruby red into the sun-kissed orange into the sunshine yellow. And I said to myself, absolutely yes. Let me see if I can find the finial for that. And he probably put it in this. No, but this is something else. Oh, it's the Viking bell. Look at this. For a dinner bell. And normally I would say, I don't buy dinner bells. Well, I do when they're Viking. And there's the label. That's a Viking dinner bell, but look at the deep red color. Do you see how Viking is more of a true red? And so is Blanco. Fenton can get there as well. Fenton Ruby is beautiful, but you can just kind of tell once you've been around it for so long. I knew that was Viking. That's maybe, what is that, $10? This one I had never seen before, so stay tuned. Oh, here's a rainbow. There's the owl bottle. Where's the stopper for my big bottle? Oh, no. Let me set this one. I'm running out of room, everybody. Nope. Okay, that almost went over. Everything's okay. We're still in good condition. I have to lay this one down. That just goes to tell me, slow down in your videos. And why don't I deal in glass? Because I'm clumsy. This goes with, let's see here. Is it this one or is it this one? Sits too low in that one. I think it's the tall bottle. I'll bring it back in just a minute. To me, this is totally Fenton. Absolutely Fenton. In hobnail, it reads as Fenton. The ruffle, the hobnail, the gradation of color, and totally reads as Fenton to me. 99% sure that's Fenton. That one, maybe 25, 25, 35. I'm trying to give you the values that I get. Let me move these out of the way. I have to start laying things down because things are going to start, junk in the trunk, I'll tell ya. It gives me an ulcer. This is rainbow glass that I mentioned before. And that's the owl bottle, the decanter. Really fantastic in construction for rainbow. But please note the foot and the way this is constructed here. That's definitely rainbow. And if it didn't have the label, we would still be pretty sure that it was rainbow glass. That one, because it's an owl, I think someone would be asking like 65. Maybe 75, but it's a cross collectible. A rainbow glass collector would love to have it. Oh, it's actually 3 different collectors. A rainbow glass collector, a ruby glass collector, a bottle collector, so that'd be 3, and an owl collector 4. See how that crossed several different collection categories? So you've got an owl person, a ruby glass person, a rainbow glass person, and a person that loves figural decanters in glass and mid-century modern. So it's anytime you get into a collectible, just make sure it has several different audiences that would want to purchase them. This one's one I hadn't seen before, and sorry for the lecture. I don't like lecturing people. I've never seen this before for Viking. I will be honest, and I will tell you, I would not know that this was Viking glass when I saw it. I would say, I don't think that's Viking, but it is. It's absolutely Viking with the early turquoise label. So when you see that label, it's a little bit more sure that it would be Viking, unless, of course, someone faked the label, took that off of something else and stuck it onto here. I don't think that's the case in this circumstance. Look at that figural swan. And notice how fine this glass is finished. It's very smooth. It's very tactile. It's finished incredibly well, and the polish on Viking glass is like gem grade, like gemstones, like faceted and polished cabochons of the finest quality. This is crackle glass as well. I would not know who the maker is. Maybe Rainbow on this one based on the foot. But again, you can put in the description if you think I've identified something incorrect. That would be okay to say, hey, I don't think that was right. And I'd say, okay, does it matter in value? Most of the time it doesn't. After all, this is just a glass pitcher in crackle glass. Amberina, again, maybe that one because the size, maybe that one is now 25 to 30 years ago, 55 to 65 all day long, and was selling for that. But that's just a different market now. It's less desirable in many, many ways. This is Viking, and I've always loved this form. So this may be a keep for me just for a while. This may be the one of 2 pieces I'm keeping just because I like the form. And Jeremy my partner has one of the largest collections of Viking glass I've ever seen anywhere. We started that, I think, 8 years ago now, before it became a thing, before it was like mainstream and popular. And thank God we were ahead of the curve. We were picking up such vases like this for like $4. Now this one in this size and in that form with that really light yellow halo at the top, maybe that's around 35 on a really good day for a bargain, and probably more like 45. Some people would be asking 50. You got to be careful on shipping as well when you buy them outside the state. Here's another. Oh, this one's Viking. This one's got the Viking label. And let me look at the difference between. Yep, okay. There is a slight difference in these two based on color. So the one I thought was Ellie Smith probably is, because it's a different color orange. This one has the Viking label on it. So I can't deny it, unless, again, that's the clear plastic label. Someone may have stuck that down to an Ellie Smith candy container. So there is that crossover, but please consult the Viking book, because there is a gray area in the collecting world of Ellie Smith and Viking. They're very, very similar. And of bittersweet vases, I hate to admit this, but I think I'm up to... I think I have 100, I think I'm down to 147 or 167 of the Ellie Smith Bittersweet. I'll do a video on Ellie Smith Bittersweet because I've loved it. I've loved it for a long time before it was an anything, and it's always best to be in on a collectible before it becomes hot. This is a giant swung vase. See how the top is swung in that kind of opalescent? This, to me, definitely reads as Ellie Smith more than anything else. If it's not Ellie Smith, it could possibly be a Fenton, but highly unlikely. The lip on there says Ellie Smith to me, and the reason why is because I have so many of these in Bittersweet that look exactly the same with that swung top. Swung vases, In mass, like meaning if you had this one and the blue Neek and the ruby red, the avocado, the amber yellow, black and white, so many different variables. They look stunning when they're put together. There is a bug stuck down inside of it. And I think that decanter top, let me see if this makes sense. Give me a minute. See, no, that doesn't really make sense in there, but it makes sense in, yes, okay. So this decanter does have the stopper. So that bottle from earlier, that pinched form I thought was Blanco, does have its original ruby stopper in perfect condition. I thought it went inside of the larger bottle, this one, but the color is wrong for the top. So I don't know where the stopper went for this one, but I think it would have had it. More than likely that form had a stopper. But again, look at the color of that. All right, so that does it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you've had a really good time. Again, values on such things, I try and keep them moderate so they sell. I would like to thank you for your time and your attention. I will ask you to go forth with peace and kindness. Sorry for the dust and the dirt and the filth of the video. I do need to go in and wash my hands. Thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate your time and your attention. Have a beautiful day, and always remember the most simple of things. I love you because I do.